Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 10th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. A rally over reproductive rights is wrapping up right now. Students and advocacy groups making their opinions known in front of the San Diego Unified School District office. It comes as the board is set to meet right now on that issue. KPBS education reporter MG Perez is live at the district's headquarters. MG?
Amitha, these are students who are part of a generation that could be impacted the most with a reversal of Roe v. Wade, and they know it. That's why they are here at the Education Center this afternoon. They showed up about an hour ago, and they represent students from high school campuses across San Diego County. Of course, they are carrying signs with messages that describe how they feel about the potential of losing reproductive rights for women, along with other potential rights as well, depending on what the Supreme Court eventually decides. Many of these students are 17 years and younger. So one strategy they're using is to pre-register to vote. That way they have a voice at the ballot box. They are wearing their emotions on their sleeves for sure, but they are also articulating those emotions loud and clear.
My classmates are scared. They're definitely scared. Angry as well with our Supreme Court justices, with the possibility of losing our rights as a 17-year-old. We have our entire lives ahead of us, and it's just not. We don't feel that we are in a position where we should lose our rights. We think that we have our lives ahead of us, and we need those rights to be able to have the success that we'd like.
Students who don't have their own incomes, can't afford an abortion, let alone raise a child, are racially barred from this type of care. I'm terrified of anyone who has a uterus feeling like they don't have a say in their own body. I think that's horrifying.
This kind of shameless act of authoritarian behavior is something that could spiral into worse things for groups that aren't even just for women, It can be anyone. And it's important that we do what we can now to stop it.
At this hour, the San Diego Unified Board of Education is meeting inside the building. On their agenda this evening is a resolution that they will consider that the district would speak very profoundly in speaking against the potential repeal of Roe versus Wade. That's why these students came here today. There's also lots of pizza, which is something that attracts many students. But more than anything, they wanted to be heard and they wanted to be seen. And that's certainly is the case this afternoon. Reporting live in University Heights, I'm MG Perez, KPBS News, Amitha.
Thank you, MG. The Senate approved a bipartisan bill expanding security protections for Supreme Court justices and their families amid rising tensions over the High Court potentially overturning Roe v. Wade. Abortion rights protesters have been holding demonstrations outside the homes of conservative justices. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said in a recent interview that a nationwide ban on abortions is theoretically possible, provoking a strong response from Democrats.
Hear that, America? A total ban, a total national ban on abortion, stated by not any Republican, but by the Republican leader.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is set to bring a bill that codifies Roe as law to the Senate floor tomorrow, but it's likely to fail for a second time due to GOP opposition. A new CDC report shows historic increases in gun-related homicides. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman spoke with an advocate who's calling for more community-based prevention strategies to address the spike.
A CDC analysis found firearm homicide rates nationwide rose 35% from 2019 to 2020. The report says rates were higher in areas with more poverty. An analysis from the same time period found that gun-related homicides in San Diego County rose 38%.
Well, when I see those numbers, I'm not surprised.
Cornelius Bowser is a gun violence prevention advocate.
My focus is gangs, gang violence, and specifically when we're addressing the crime, gun crimes, right?
Bowser has helped pass safe storage laws in San Diego and ordinances targeting ghost guns.
Safe storage is important, that people safely store their guns when they don't have them in their possession or in their control, because what ends up happening is if somebody breaks into your house or your car and they get that gun, then it ends up on our streets. And I think people have to understand that.
Earlier this year, Bowser launched the No Shots Fired program in San Diego. He wants to see more community-based intervention programs.
We have to shift that approach to where that we have community-based organizations that are trained and that are professionals and know how to go in and address community gun violence from a community perspective, not a law enforcement perspective. If you really want to prevent gun violence, then you need those like myself who have the lived experience. I'm a former gang member, have the credible authority to go in there and be a credible messenger and talk with the individuals who will listen to us, right?
Bowser says more preventative, not reactive strategies are needed.
And I'm not trying to be a critic of the police or anything like that, because I work with them and I can, they can really hate on me and try to squash everything we're doing. But I have to speak truth, right? If policing by itself worked, why are we in the dilemma we're in? And that's a question we have to ask ourselves.
The CDC report found firearms were involved in 79% of homicides nationwide. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
President Biden is laying out new plans on what his administration can do to combat inflation. Today, he also struck back directly at GOP economic proposals he claims aren't helping matters. More now from reporter Karen Kafa.
I want every American to know that I'm taking inflation very seriously.
President Joe Biden highlighting plans to lower energy prices, lower prescription drug prices, raise taxes on corporations, and ease supply chain bottlenecks while taking aim at Republicans.
They don't want to solve inflation by lowering your costs. They want to solve it by raising your taxes and lowering your income.
Despite an historically strong jobs market, Biden has faced low marks on the economy as inflation has soared. Republicans have pounced.
These Democratic price hikes will likely be American families' new normal.
In addition to higher grocery tabs, AAA says the nationwide average for a gallon of regular gas hit a fresh record of $4.37, up $1.40 from 1 year ago.
The war certainly doesn't look like it's going anywhere, but summer driving season is just kicking in. Warmer weather, longer days, people are going to be out on the roads, more demand.
The White House pointing to disruption from Russia's war in Ukraine and parallels in post-recovery inflation in Europe and the UK.
Because while we supported households and businesses got shots into arms, which allowed people to start to come out of their homes and regain their lives, our supply chains could not support that demand. So we are not alone.
Inflation surged to a 4-decade high in March. The federal government releases April data on Wednesday. In Washington, Karen Kafa, KPBS News.
2 blocks of downtown San Diego will be developed into affordable housing. The excess state property was awarded to the Michaels organization as part of Governor Newsom's executive order to spur housing development. The property includes a state office building on Front Street, which is expected to be demolished. The redevelopment project will also include market rate units, office space, and retail. Veteran unemployment remains low coming out of the pandemic. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says vets still face challenges in the job market.
The unemployment rate among veterans ticked up slightly in April to 3%, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. But that's still part of an overall decline in recent months. Lindsay Livingston with Veterans Village says some vets are left behind.
Even though the numbers may look You know, one way, we're still seeing veterans come to us with a lot of these same struggles.
Livingston says finding work in that first year after a person leaves the military is particularly difficult.
A lot of time our veterans do struggle in that area, especially if they went into the service straight out of high school. They may not have actually ever done a job interview before.
They need help building resumes because employers don't always understand how military duties translate into civilian job skills.
If a veteran came right out of high school into the military and served for a number of years, when they get out, often they can feel behind their peers in terms of a career in the civilian world.
Some question whether the numbers show a true picture of veteran unemployment. The group called Call of Duty helps employ veterans. It recently issued a report saying that the numbers don't show, among other things, how many veterans remain underemployed. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
An ex-caregiver and convicted sex offender pleaded guilty today to sexually assaulting 2 women in San Diego area nursing homes. His plea comes before he was to be retried on charges he attacked the women while they were in his care. A jury convicted Matthew Flukiger in March of sexually assaulting a woman at La Mesa's Parkway Hills nursing home in January 2020, but it hung on counts involving 2 other women. 11 voted to convict Flukiger, 1 to acquit. The plea agreement means Flukiger faces 25 years to life in prison. One of the most significant elections in the Philippines is underway. KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim spoke with members of the San Diego Filipino diaspora about what this election means for them and their families back home.
Protests and celebrations erupted across the Philippines on Monday after early counting showed presidential candidate Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is likely bound for the presidency. For some, like Grace Tamayo, Marcos' strong lead of more than 15 million votes was a reason to celebrate.
Really very happy. We did not know what to say, and we did not know how to feel. But now, I know that now that Bongbong Marcos will be our president, we believe that our nation will be great again.
But for others, the apparent election of the son and namesake of former dictator Ferdinand Marcos led to shockwaves of fear and dismay. Renato Reyes Jr. led a protest in Manila.
People here have not conceded. I don't think they will ever concede. They're here to express a deep sense of outrage over the political system in the Philippines, which has allowed the heir of the dictator Marcos to return to power as president.
Here in San Diego, which is home to the 5th largest Filipino population in the United States, Filipino Americans and immigrants have been watching the election closely.
Our struggles aren't divorce. So what's happening in the Philippines is directly connected to us here in the U.S.
Angela Subito grew up in National City and is part of Anak Bayan, a Filipino volunteer-run youth organization in San Diego. She's not happy about Marcos's apparent landslide win.
It's just a very scary time for people who have differing opinions or want to advocate for their rights in the Philippines.
She's worried about what it means for her dad, who moved back to the Philippines last year.
I'm just thinking about how the administration isn't currently meeting the needs of Filipinos over there, and they're forced to migrate overseas. And just so thinking about if he'll be able to receive health care, if he'll be safe on the streets with the increase of militarization.
Subito says she's afraid that the rise of Marcos, alongside the current president's daughter, Sara Duterte, as his vice president, will result in the return of martial law and the continued neglect of immigrant workers in the United States. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
California regulators are seeking more information before they move forward with an overhaul of rules governing the state's solar power marketplace. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
The California Public Utilities Commission is reopening the record to get more input before they finalize the state's solar energy rules. A proposed decision in December met stiff opposition, and the process was stopped in January. Now, regulators want more information on fixed fees for rooftop solar, fees paid for excess electricity, and community solar projects. Solar advocate Bernadette Del Chiara says there's a lot at stake.
Is California going to continue to see solar grow, accelerate the adoption of storage, and get closer to meeting our clean energy goals? Or are we going to dial everything back?
Comments are due by the end of June, meaning there will be no decision until July at the earliest. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Well, we have a few cool days and breezy days at that just for the next couple, and then we'll be warming up, especially as we head to next weekend. And unfortunately, no rain in the forecast. Of course, the breezy days don't make for great fire weather concerns. We could see that really heighten up, especially across the majority of the Southwest. Across San Diego County, temperatures falling back quite chilly tonight in Ramona, 38 degrees, El Cajon, 46, Escondido, 43, Oceanside, 46, Borrego Springs dropping down to the upper 40s as well. Mount Laguna, 37 degrees. So there it is, that cool trend. Those below average temperatures are waking up, and it will be a pretty chilly morning for you on Wednesday, with this trough dipping pretty far to the south. Out ahead of it, again, dry conditions, but windy conditions at that. So red flag warnings will be out for a good deal of the Southwest as we head throughout your Wednesday. You'll get ample sunshine, though. Temperatures might be a touch on the cooler side in places like Ramona, 66, Escondido, 66 as well. Oceanside, you'll be about 68, and just a tad warmer. San Diego getting to the mid-70s, El Cajon about 70 as well. And then you look at Borrego Springs and you're at 78. Mount Laguna, though, it's going to be chilly in the 40s. Again, ample sunshine all the way throughout your Wednesday. Not even much for cloud coverage aside from maybe early in the day. Other than that, from the afternoon on, it's nice. You might be able to have some lunch outside, but again, it will be on the cooler side until we look ahead with high pressure building in across the Southwest. Sunshine returns, and then some comfortable temperatures as well, and we lead into this warming trend. In fact, if you look at the coast, you'll be mostly sunny and warm the weekend, 80 degrees on Saturday, 76 for your Sunday. Further inland you go, the 90s is what you'll see for highs on Saturday, 86 for your Sunday, and into those higher elevations, even you as well will see sunny and warm conditions throughout your Saturday and Sunday, with temperatures in the lower 70s, and for the desert, 100 plus Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
San Diego County is getting $1 million from the U.S. government to expand child care capacity. Today, the Board of Supervisors authorized accepting the federal appropriations to create a fund to help small child care facilities. Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs secured the funding through the Small Business Administration's annual funding bill. It comes a day after hundreds of daycare centers in 27 states closed in protest. Parents navigating baby formula recalls and the ongoing supply chain disruptions are now dealing with a worsening situation. New data shows shortages are growing. All this as 3 major retailers take action to address the situation. Isabel Rosales reports.
Baby formula is getting harder and harder to find. Analysts say supply chain challenges, inflation, and product recalls are all preventing formula from hitting store shelves. And the FDA is paying close attention as it works with manufacturers to safely ramp up production.
We're very concerned about it and understand that it should be a concern to moms and dads and grandparents like me. We want this to get fixed.
New data from Data Assembly shows 40% of baby formula brands are out of stock, a dramatic rise from the first half of 2021, when that rate was between 2 and 8%. The new data also shows in these 6 states, Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, Missouri, Texas, and Tennessee, more than half of baby formula was completely sold out during the last week of April. The situation has parents feeling helpless.
There's no answer. What are we supposed to do if we can't find the formula?
The supply is so low that CVS, Walgreens, and Target are limiting purchases. Parents say those limits are making things even harder.
I'm starting to hoard. I'm starting to scour. We're going further out. I'm going to areas where I know that there's a low population. What am I doing, you know? It's unreal.
Experts urge parents to be flexible and speak to their pediatricians about options, especially if they have kids with severe allergies that require special formulas.
We want to make sure that families do not get desperate and do things like start making formulas at home or buying formulas that are not properly vetted by the FDA.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Isabel Rosales.
Former President Donald Trump could one day return to Twitter. Today, billionaire Elon Musk, who was awaiting final approval on his deal to buy the social media platform, said he would restore Trump's banned account. Trump was booted following the January 6th Capitol riot for violating the platform's rules against violence incitement. Musk called the ban a mistake and has vowed to keep freedom of speech open. Critics argue such inflammatory comments need to be monitored or muted. Assembly District 80 is up for grabs this June 7th, not just once, but twice. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer explains why.
After Lorena Gonzalez stepped down from her Assembly District 80 seat in January, a battle to represent San Diego's South Bay got underway. First, there was a special election primary on April 5th. No candidate got the majority vote, so now there's a runoff on June 7th. That's the same day as a separate general election for the same seat. Yes, it's confusing.
There will be approximately 250,000 voters in the county that will have 2 Assembly District contests on their ballot.
San Diego County Registrar of Voters Cynthia Paz explains how this will work.
One will be the general election for the 80th Assembly District for the remainder of the current term. So it's electing someone to fill the seat for the remainder of this current term through December of 2022. The second contest, state assembly contest, will be for the new term, beginning December 5th of 2022, the new 2-year term.
So voters will vote twice, once for a candidate for June through December, and then again for a candidate to go on to the November general election. The November winner will then represent the district for the next 2 years. For the June through December term, Democrats Georgette Gomez and David Alvarez are the only 2 candidates competing head-to-head. Meanwhile, the standard election primary will include the 2 Democrats, as well as a pair of Republicans, Lincoln Picard and John Vogel Garcia. Southwestern College professor of political science, Phil Sines, says whoever wins the special election will technically run as an incumbent in the November general election.
They both have terrific name recognition. They have the political machinery in place. I would say that those are other factors to be considered. But yes, I think there is an advantage, especially if they're able to use that time wisely and generate enough positive publicity during that time period.
To further complicate matters, people who lived in the 2011 district boundaries can vote for the special election candidates. But the standard election primary is only for those who live in the updated 2021 district boundaries. So some folks may not be able to vote for both.
This is a sample of the ballot, but on the ballot for the 80th Assembly District, we have in parentheses special runoff to fill vacancy, which is separate from their regular, the primary election for the new term of the whatever assembly district they reside in now.
Again, the top 2 vote getters in the standard primary election this June will head to a November general election. Sines says even though the 2 Democrats are the most likely to be on the November ballot, it's the Republican and independent voters who may make a difference.
Because there was 9,000 votes in the previous election that went to the one Republican that was running. So who's going to get those 9,000 votes? Who's going to get the other Republican votes when they vote again in November? And it may come down to Republican voters deciding the election as much as it does for Democrats in that district.
Now, ballots are on their way to voters.
So the week of May 9th, you should expect to receive your official ballot in the mail. On that same day, we will have nearly 132 drop-off locations open across the county.
Paz says the county will also have 219 voting centers open starting on Saturday, May 28th. Results in both contests will be certified 30 days after the June 7th election. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The University of San Diego welcomed a new president for a day. Miguel Hornado is a graduating senior, majoring in psychology and minoring in theology and religious studies. He started the day with USD President James Harris with a short hike through nearby Tecolote Canyon. He then had several meetings, including planning for the end-of-the-year graduation mass, a discussion on an admissions decision, and asking a donor for money. Hornado spent time behind the president's desk, a position he could see himself filling someday.
As somebody who identifies as Mexican American, I do see the need for people like myself to be in positions of leadership, especially in academics. I think that education is, as mentioned by someone, the great equalizer. I think that a way to break these socioeconomic strains on minorities is to be educated.
The annual President for a Day program requires applicants to write an essay about their leadership qualities and issues they would address as leader of USD. From San Diego City College to the final frontier, a 26-year-old engineer will become the first Mexico-born woman to travel in space. Katya Ecazarreta is one of 6 people chosen to participate in a suborbital flight with Blue Origin, the space tourism company created by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. Ecazarreta was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, and later moved to San Diego, attending San Diego City College. She earned her bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from UCLA and is finishing up a master's at Johns Hopkins University. The date of the mission has not been set. Today, the San Diego Zoo Safari Park is celebrating 50 years of welcoming guests and helping with wildlife conservation efforts. The Safari Park kicked off the 50th anniversary with a special opening ceremony this morning. Wildlife experts told our media partner 10 News what sets the Safari Park apart from others.
At the park, we have 3 100-acre areas where wildlife can interact and roam as they would naturally in their native habitat. So getting to see that up close right there is potentially a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that can change the way people feel and inspire that conservation.
While the Safari Park welcomes guests to learn more about wildlife, money from admissions goes back to conservation efforts and their animal habitats. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.